Welcome to Under the Bleachers. That's William Yanish and our guest Brandice. I'm Chris Ransom. Got a good fun show for you tonight, I don't even know. I don't even have a thumbnail plan for Saturday yet. Still working on the write up for the NFC Championship, but we're here to talk about some other things. You wanted to ask Brandice about what Georgia's got to do to rebuild. The SEC's had a 3-year championship drought. The Big Ten, Michigan, Ohio State, now Indiana. It's insane. The Big Ten is taking over college football.
Yeah, for sure. Dodoza and all that. That was like a movie script. What happened the other night, and I, like I said, I like him a lot, but he definitely has some things to work on. Other than that, I just want to hear what you think about Georgia and what's going on there. Because now that the 12-team format is coming around, it's changed a whole lot of things, and there's been a whole lot of parity. So I'd just like to know what you think about those Georgia Bulldogs and what they can do.
Sorry, got another guest that was here.
Hi.
I don't know. I mean,
You made me.
it's tough because I feel like I really did see. Hey, is that something you can't do? Okay, I really did see them turn the program around kind of mid-season. I didn't have a whole lot of faith, when Carson Beck left. Okay, hold on. That we'd be able to pull anything out. Oh, sorry, hold on. Got a lot of crazy things going. But the defense was the star of the show. So I think that being able to have that group stay together for the most part is going to be a good thing. Um, I was actually, and I mean, I'm shocked to say this, but I was not as, I guess, turned off as I thought I would be. Hey. By their performance this season. I mean, they got. I'm not going to say they got farther than I thought they would get, but they didn't do horrible.
Yeah, and then watching Carson Beck, go to Miami and come within, that Mendoza run, that like I mentioned, that movie script run, into the end zone, and that guy's kind of sneaky fast. But I was talking this last weekend about him and mentioning the fact, that Beck might be the best quarterback in this draft, and it's definitely going to be interesting, but it's what's still up in the air if Gunnar Stockton is coming back to Georgia, or whether he's entering the draft. But what do you think about that situation?
I think he needs a little bit more time, just one more year. I really do. I think Carson Beck knew that too. So
Yeah, I saw the thing, a reporter asking Carson Beck about saying something over if he had class and this and that, and he's got this look on his face like he had too many edibles, and he's like, I graduated 2 years ago. I've got a few other classes going, but it's going to take some time. So apparently he's one of those Rocky Lombardi types, that's got 2 masters and a bachelor's, But with the NIL and everything that they have going on, it's they can afford to pick what year they come out, and next year has a pretty good quarterback class, and it's one of those things. Let's see. I don't know who else Georgia has leaving, but I'm trying to look that up right now. I've got this terrible echo in my ear too. Yeah, Stockton's still undecided, but he's never been much of more than a Georgia type quarterback, like Stetson Bennett and the 30-year-old rookie or whatever. I don't know. What do you think about this nil stuff going on? Because it seems like they're starting to draw some lines. I know there was a court case where they were trying to stop this
There
one
is
quarterback
one
from
way
going
to
to stuff
kill
like
the
that.
transfer portal. There is one way to kill the transfer portal, and this is how you do it. You let them transfer one time, and if they transfer more than once, they lose half their NIL money. So if you get a 4-year deal,
that's not right.
if you get a 4-year deal for $4 million and you transfer multiple times, you only get $2 million. You lose half of that if you transfer twice in 4 years. If you transfer once, you don't lose anything. You transfer twice, you lose $2 million, and if you transfer a third time, you only get $1 million, or you only get a quarter of what you were contractually obligated to receive. That's how you kill the transfer portal.
But why are we trying to kill it? I mean, it's at this point the NIL deals pretty much make every student athlete an employee of their
I'm
school.
saying student athletes should be paid, but I'm also saying that colleges should have the right to make those student athletes their property if they recruit them.
Well, that's one thing that was mentioned in the court case, was that if they made them employees of the school, then they could stop them from, transferring or playing for another school. So
yeah, I mean, they could create a contract that said when you come here, you can't leave. But I don't think they should be penalized for leaving, because just like in a job, the fastest way to make more money is to get another job. Like if you leave your job to go, you are less likely to get a raise than you are to get more money by just going to somewhere else, right? And it's the same thing with the NIL deals. Like I don't know what Carson Beck made here at Georgia, but I mean, because he did so well at Miami, I'd argue he probably made more there. And I mean, Miami's got like a big fan base, so
yeah. And
I don't know. I don't want to kill the transfer portal. I think the only people complaining about it are the coaches because they have to work harder now. And you know what happened? Teams like Indiana win the championship. Now all of the old guards have to go, and now you start to see who's really doing their job in coaching. That's what's happening.
The one thing I see a lot of on social media is fans complaining because somebody's leaving their team. It's like free agents in the NFL, and it's like, man, I mean, I'm a Niners fan, and it's like if I want what's best for those guys, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, if they can get more money, go somewhere else, do their thing, I wouldn't be mad at them. It's a business decision, and it's like what's best for them and their families. And that's the same thing that I feel about Nil. It's like the Matt Saluka thing. He was promised $100,000, and then he shows up and they give him like $13,000. It's like, and he goes out there with a 4-0 start, thinking he's got a foothold on him, and to actually give him his money, but it was promised to him by someone else and this other kind of stuff. And that's one thing, everyone's hating Matt Saluka for quitting on his team. It's like, man, he was promised $88,000 more or $87,000. It's like, that's a hell of a difference, man. It's like, good for him. Somebody lied to him. And that's one thing that they absolutely need to clean up in this NIL. They need to buff the edges of the thing, set some guidelines, because it looks like the way they set it up was just an all-out bidding war, to where, biggest schools, you know, get the best players, which
Yeah,
is
coaches and players can leave
in
at
their
any
favor.
time now. That's why I feel like NIL and the portal, there needs to be some sort of salary cap or some contracts in place so where you have to honor this contract in order to receive everything. We will include incentives. We will include incentives if you win. We will include incentives if you do off the field advertising. We will include all of that, but there needs to be a precedent, a standard for to cut back on the portal, not kill it entirely, but cut back on it so players remain honorable to the schools or have incentives to remain honorable to those schools.
Yeah, because the way it's going, it's just going to get worse and worse. It's like, you know, Dave Portnoy, you know, fronting $5 million or whatever to get Bryce Underwood up to Michigan, you know, and he ended up getting like 13 million for this last year or something.
Yeah, that part's illegal. So I mean, I am very much so a proponent of letting these kids make the money that they make. I mean, I remember going down to the local gift shop, or what do they call it, student center at Syracuse, and it never occurred to me that like the school was making money off of, you know, Hello Anthony jersey that I had just purchased, and he didn't make a single cent.
Yeah,
we were there at the same
and it's
time.
Like they couldn't even get, you know, a cheeseburger or some crab legs or anything, you know, and that was just complete and utter crap. It's like, you know, I mean, give them something if you're going to make money off them and pay these coaches millions of dollars. You know, I was preaching that years ago, and it's not.
It's bad.
It's
like
not
there
a bad
was a
thing.
kid.
They just need to, you know.
I remember going to a
basketball
game
team
with my family at Neyland Stadium in 2001, and they had a Peyton Manning jersey, a number 16 Peyton Manning jersey in the Tennessee Athletic, the Tennessee University shop, where you buy books, jerseys, Tennessee Volunteers memorabilia. So the Tennessee Volunteers were making money off of Peyton Manning's NIL before NIL became a thing. Name, image, likeness. That's just one example.
You know, them getting hurt and they just wad them up and throw them away, you know, get somebody else in there. And it's like, you guys just need some structure, you know. And
when I was at Syracuse, the year that they won the championship, there was a kid and his name was Billy Edelin, and nobody probably remembers him now, but he was just as good. He was really better than Carmelo. Like, he was a point guard. And he came from Baltimore, and he had gotten there on scholarship. And I think he was like one of those kids that had gone to like a JUCO or something, because he just had come from like a really bad place and like gotten into some trouble and stuff like that. When he came to Syracuse, he got messed up, you know, doing some crazy stuff for money, because you got a full ride and they feed you and everything, but you have no other money. And he ended up getting arrested and his career was just over, you know. And I think about that a lot of times when I think about these NIL deals, because a lot of these kids do not come from like money, and that's the way that they can make it. I mean, they can't do work study, not with their like practice schedule and their, you know, game schedule. It's whatever money they make, they should be able to make.
Yep. And that's 100% true, you know. And you know, these, like I said, they go out there and give their lives for it. And it's like, I can't watch the NBA, but, you know, you turn on some March Madness and see some of these kids giving their all because it might be their last game ever, you know, and they just want, it's going to be a memory for the rest of their life, you know. And it's pretty sad to see these broke kids and that, you know. And like I said, if they sign contracts, like, you know, whatever it is, contract or 1099, that kind of thing, and get rid of the name, image, and likeness, you know, that would be the way to get it done. So.
Yep. But I feel like the only pro leagues that aren't saturated with big market teams or what is the word, watered down, are the NFL and the NHL. The NBA feels like a watered down version of college basketball. The MLB is saturated with big market teams. I prefer college baseball. And, I like the MLS, but frankly, the MLS is basically valuing players and academies and big star free agents like Lionel Messi over the best college soccer players. So it's become less fun to watch. So I think we'd agree, William, that the only pro leagues that aren't watered down in North America are probably the NFL and the NHL. And you're more of a football than a hockey guy.
Yeah. And, the thing with the NFL is now they've got all these questionable calls, and all these overtime games. As soon as we get into the playoffs, and I looked it up last night on Google Gemini and talking about, because I was seeing a bunch of the rig talk, and it's like so many people are gravitating more towards the college ranks because of what's going on in the NFL, and it's like they need to actually come out and do something about that, because if anything is scripted, not saying that it is, but there's starting to be some real big questions, and there's an unbelievable amount of fans that believe it's rigged, and it's like,
yeah,
you guys are
there's
losing
going to be an
interest.
argument that it's rigged for the Rams if they win. It's like there's going to be an argument that it's rigged for the Patriots if we get a Rams-Patriots Super Bowl, because Sean Smith, who called last year's Patriots-Rams regular season game, has been awarded the Super Bowl for this year. And he called the Patriots win over the Texans, too, by the way, on Sunday. So if the Patriots win the Super Bowl, there's going to be a case that it's rigged for the Patriots. If the Rams win, there's going to be a case that it's rigged for the Rams. So the NFL can't win unless they put the Seahawks in the Super Bowl and they win. Because you're going to hear rigged, it's rigged for the Rams, it's rigged for the Patriots if either of them wins. And I think there's a good chance one of those two does end up winning it all.
Yeah. And it's been, I can't remember how long, what has it been, 10 years or 10 or 12 years that either the Patriots or the Chiefs were in the championship
13
game.
Years the Chiefs or Patriots has been in the AFC Championship. The last game that did not happen was the 2010-2011 season where Ben Roethlisberger defeated Mark Sanchez.
Oh, and speaking of which, since you're from Atlanta, Brandice, I can't remember the number. It was like 38 or 42%, but Atlanta Falcons fans, 38 or 42% of them believe that it's rigged. and that's actually, it's kind of weird that it's the Falcons. It's like, what, you figured it would be some of these teams that are getting, questionable calls, like, the Saints, like what happened with that pass interference call a few years ago, when the Rams.
I think it's rigged, but not as rigged as the NBA. I feel like the NBA is super rigged.
A few people that have been in the NFL and been near it, and there's a few of them that think some of the old guard, that there's teams that just lay down for the other ones, and then they work it out amongst themselves, and that's literally what they thought, and it actually makes sense because there's teams, Jets, Browns, all of them, the Redskins, that end up with a new quarterback every 2 or 3 years, and selling jerseys, putting asses in the seats, and they're absolutely killing it. It's the NFL is like 61% of their revenue comes from merchandise and ticket sales, which is absolutely crazy, but that's what they thrive off of, and it's one of the things one of the people I talked to, also they thought that, how did that go? I'll just forget about it. But what do you think about your Falcons, Brandice? Before we get too many bots on here, listening to us about rigging things, start getting red flags go up, ding, ding, ding.
I don't know. I mean, they got rid of the head coach. They got rid of the general manager, which I don't know if that was the right decision. I actually thought the general manager did a good job. I think the Kirk Cousins decisions, I mean, it was a bad idea to give him that much money. But at the time, I
Yeah.
didn't think it was that bad of an idea to pick him up.
Yeah.
And I guess, you could say, well, we could have gotten, whoever, but I don't know. There were a lot of duds that came out like the previous
And
2 years. I
putting
thought
him
Penix.
doesn't really make a lot of sense for next year if Penix is out until November or December,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can save money if you get out of his contract now, but you'd save even more money in 2027 if you waited another year, cut him. And then you have 2 quarterbacks in case Penix isn't 100% for week 1.
Well, that's the one thing with Penix too is I had to dig really deep when I was doing his evaluation because they weren't showing it. He had surgery on both shoulders, an AC joint, and labrum in the other one, but they were during the off season, so it didn't show on this injury report. And I mentioned him being injured, and everybody's like, "Oh, what? 2 ACL tears?" I'm like, "No, dude." I was like, "Check this out." I was like, "Dude's like not doing well," and his waist twisting, torquing, throwing motion was something that I saw with Baron Morton of Texas Tech, and he had an AC joint injury, which kind of actually made sense. But Penix cleaned that up a lot, but I still think his window's about this big, if he has one. And I have a 3rd round grade on him because of his injury report and because, he can't really throw cross body with the body mechanics that he uses. So
He needs to get whoever Dak Prescott is working with. He's working with like a Pilates coach, or maybe not Pilates, something along those lines. It's not like your typical football coach. They're doing like kind of yoga motions to kind of give him more flexibility.
Yeah, stretches and flexibility are absolutely, a lifesaver when it comes to some of these injuries, and that's definitely interesting because I'm actually trying to look this up right now if I can see out here, but it's a little bit dark. But yeah, they gave Kirk Cousins like 160 million, and then turned around and drafted Penix, and Penix is the only 1st round receiver that's not, looking that great from that year. The other ones came out obviously, Drake May and Bo Nix, and I mean they were all doing their things. And Bo Nix, that's sad to see him break his ankle because getting all that way and finally getting to the championship game, getting there to where he can prove everybody wrong because everybody is wrong about him. He's a pretty decent quarterback, but it's one of those things. He wasn't QB1 in that class, but I mean he's still pretty good, and his leadership. I've listened to some of his teammates talk, and that's one thing that I've really learned in evaluations is to hear some of these guys talk and hear some of their teammates talk about him. Hear the tone that they're talking about him in and everything else. But let's see, Dak Prescott injury. I wonder what Jerry Jones is going to do with Dak Prescott, because that's been kind of a question the last few years before he was injured, if he was actually going to stay there or not. Or
they gave him $60 million last. They gave him $60 million in 2024.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, so his contract runs through 2028, and the Cowboys cannot get out of it. They cannot get out of it until 2027 because there's so much dead cap put into the contract, 195, 180, 129 from 24 to 26. So they cannot get out of the contract until 2027 or 2028. So you're stuck with Dak Prescott for one more season after this year.
Oh, I like him in Dallas. I like him a whole lot there. Yeah. You know how I feel about the Cowboys,
Now,
but we're not going to get a PG-13
the
rating
Cowboys
from
end
that.
up getting Arch Manning next year since he went back to Texas.
Ooh.
That's when Dak will get moved because they can buy him out to save. Let's see here, 70. They could save 12 million in cap space by buying him out, but I don't think he would get bought out. I think he would get traded to a team, and if he sucked on the team he got traded to, then he would get bought out, and that team would save more cap space than the Cowboys with the contract running through 2028. Because see, that's what would happen if the Cowboys, let's say Arch Manning wins the Heisman and the national title next year, the Cowboys get the first pick. In that scenario, Dak Prescott gets traded and the Cowboys reset at quarterback. Question is who would take on that contract, $60 million a year.
Oh, that's weird, man. Sorry, my freaking space bar just went down and won't come back up. Anyway,
but don't you think that's what would happen in that scenario if Dak's contract runs through 2029 and the Cowboys get Arch Manning, or they're picking first and Arch Manning wins a Heisman? Dak would probably get traded in that scenario because the Cowboys would only save $12 million if they cut him. Versus, it makes more sense to trade him so the team that trades for him does not get a good ROI. They can cut him and save even more in 2028 before the contract actually expires. And I think there would be a market for Dak, whether it's the Jets, whether it's the Browns. I think there would be a market for Dak Prescott.
Yeah, he definitely has the numbers to
Arch
do it.
Manning winning a Heisman is a bit of a stretch, though.
I don't know. I feel like Texas and Oregon are the two teams that have capitalized off the portal more than anyone else. But we'll see. Miami Hurricanes are projected to get Mensa in the portal. Josh Hoover's projected to go to Indiana to replace Mendoza, TCU quarterback. I don't know if I like Raiola more than Dante Moore personally, but he's going to be the backup to Dante Moore for a year. So I'm thinking if it's Texas, Oregon next year, Texas will win it in 2027, and then Oregon and Dan Lanning with Raiola will get it in 2028. Because I think Raiola is a stud, William, but he's going to be sitting behind Dante Moore next season.
What about McKeer?
That's another interesting case.
Here's interesting. I think the Red River Shootout might end up being the SEC title next year. Unless Georgia just rebounds with Gunnar Stockton. He's coming back. But they're losing a lot of offensive linemen. I think Georgia has two players on the front seven that might be first-round picks. So their defensive tackle, Christian Miller, and their middle linebacker, C.J. Allen. Those players, I could see both those guys going in day one, Brandice. I don't know. Do you have a strong impression of watching either when you saw them play?
What I remember, we didn't look that great, but there were a lot of injuries in that game, so I couldn't really assess the O-line that well. I know there was like at least one OT out and like a.
I'm talking about the defense, not the offense. But yeah.
Oh, you said a tackle?
A defensive tackle and a linebacker. Okay.
No, I mean, I think the defensive front was the strongest part of Georgia's team. So any losses in that area is a problem.
Christian Miller, the nose tackle, is projected to declared for the draft 6'3", 310, and he's projected as a first-round pick. He's the projected number 2 defensive tackle in the draft behind Clemson's Peter Woods. So yeah.
Yeah, Georgia definitely always has some linemen up there, between Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter, and I mean
they do a great job reloading in the front seven.
That they do. So, well,
I'm not saying Georgia can't make a move, but I'm looking at maybe 4 schools in the SEC next year, William. I'm looking at LSU with Sam Leavitt, the Arizona State QB. I'm looking at Georgia. I'm looking at Texas, and I'm looking at Oklahoma with Mateer. Those are the 4 I'm really looking at.
real head scratcher that I have is what you mentioned about Dylan Raiola. You know,
Tennessee and Vanderbilt are both dark horses in the SEC. Vanderbilt's going to have a freshman quarterback from Nashville, Tennessee, who decommitted from Georgia. And Tennessee, they've got a freshman redshirt, and they've got Faison Brandon, a 5-star recruit who was the number 1 QB in this class. And Aguilar could return depending on what happens with his trial on February 10th, which is set the day after the Super Bowl. Maybe
definitely
2 days after the Super Bowl, but it's the week after the Super Bowl. So it's Tuesday after the Super Bowl. That's when we'll know Aguilar's status, because Aguilar could go anywhere from the 7th round to the 3rd round, depending on how he performs in the draft process if he turns pro this year. But he could also get another year at Tennessee if the judge grants him another year. But we won't know what the judge is going to do until February 10th. That's when the hearing is, the Tuesday.
Yeah, I think the SEC is definitely going to have to
And
start.
Tristan Key's the number 1 receiver in high school football, committed to Tennessee. So I'm looking at maybe 6 teams that could win the SEC next year: Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Oklahoma, LSU, and I know Alabama made the SEC title game last year, but they're losing Ty Simpson. They're losing multiple starters in the offensive line. I think they're going to take a step back next year. They have everyone on the secondary returning. That's the positive with Alabama, but they're going to have the expectations of, if we don't get back to the SEC title, it's a failure. And I just think there's too much competition in the SEC next year for them to get back to the SEC title. Too many returning quarterbacks.
Oh.
I could be wrong on that, but
and then having Kiffin switch teams and bring in Levitt, and that's going to be real interesting too, you know.
Yeah, and Ole Miss's running back was only a sophomore. He'll be back next year. Chambliss probably won't be, since he wasn't granted an extra year of eligibility, but we'll see.
For sure. But yeah, you know, I mean, you got anything else about the SEC, Brandice?
Not really. I am interested to see if the NFL is able to coach anyone. I kind of feel like being as strong as they were this year, I wonder if anybody be swayed.
Interesting, because I mean, how many coaching openings?
3 hires have been made so far. We'll briefly touch on those, and then we'll probably sign off. But the Giants got John Harbaugh. That was the first domino. The Falcons got Kevin Stefanski, and they brought in Tommy Rees. They brought in Bill Callahan. They brought in a lot of old Browns coaches that Stefanski worked with. Oh, and the Dolphins hired Jeff Hafley. And before I could get any coaching information on Jeff Hafley, the first thing that shows up on Google is a "Fire Jeff Hafley" Reddit thread. So I think that's the worst hiring so far, because that's a blatant red flag. If there's no bio on Jeff Hafley's previous accomplishments as a head coach on Google, and the first thing that shows up is a "Fire Jeff Hafley" Reddit thread that Packers fans started, that is an instant red flag. That is, okay, this is Green Bay can just get a good defensive coordinator and reload very easily, William, whereas Hafley probably set up for failure in Miami unless they bring in a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah, which they're going to have to do. And I think, like we were talking last weekend, it's one of those things where, you know, defensive coordinators seem to have, you know, maybe a little bit more success than the young offensive guys, you know, but a defensive head coach, you know, you definitely have to bring in, you know, some hot shot coordinator.
The trend's been offensive coordinators in recent years. The trend's been offensive coordinators because guys like Andy Reid, Nick Sirianni, Kyle Shanahan are in the Super Bowl consistently. That's why the trend's been offensive coordinators. Sean McVay. But if Vrabel wins the Super Bowl this year, which I think he will, we're going to see a changing of the guard. And then we're going to see teams go for defensive coordinators, defensive-minded coaches.
It didn't work for Atlanta. So they went offensive with Stefanski. And I don't know if they're going to keep Zach Robinson. I kind of hope they don't.
They already hired Tommy Rees as the new offensive coordinator. He was Kevin
they did?
coordinator in Cleveland. Yes, that happened today when they brought him.
There's that.
Bill Callahan, former Browns offensive line coach.
I thought he was going to be a QB coach. I didn't know whether or not, they would get rid of the DC, but
yeah, they've got Jeff Ulbrich on that staff as well. I love the Falcons coaching staff, but I think the schedule, like they might be multiple years away from winning that division because I think Baker's just going to play with a huge chip on his shoulder next year in his contract year. He wants to go into FU Stefanski mode and run it up on them, and then Falcons host Super Bowl 62, and how I have reservations about picking the Super Bowl host to go far. I mean, it happened during COVID, but it hasn't happened since. Although your Niners, they did come close. I mean, they got to the divisional round. They beat the Eagles with a really injury-battered roster.
Oh man, I was catching hell for saying that Sam Darnold's going to get beat like a redheaded stepchild. It's like, man, we weren't supposed to be there. With all the injuries, our best pass rusher, that's healthy was Bryce Huff, and it was like, man, we're signing linebackers and there's tight ends in the game, that haven't caught a pass since 2021, and the guy's like screwing up and all kinds of stuff. It just one of those things, it's like I can go out there and be a fan if I want to, I mean, I can talk a little crap, and I mean, why not? But so that was interesting, and yeah, but like I said, we weren't supposed to be there, but now Sal is gone.
My alma mater just got a player in the Shrine Bowl. My alma mater, Slippery Rock, just got a player in the Shrine Bowl. Joe Cooper.
Nice.
He's an offensive lineman on Slippery Rock. He got it. He got accepted into the East-West Shrine Bowl. I'm looking at he was a finalist for the Gene Upshaw Division II Offensive Lineman of the Year. 6'7", 320. I'm looking team captain. I'm looking at his was he a left tackle or right tackle? He was a left tackle at Slippery Rock for the last 2 years. So actually and then he was a right tackle his first 2 years, left tackle his last 2 years. So Joe Cooper, he's in the East-West Shrine Bowl, just accepted his invite. So a Division II player gets into the East-West Shrine Bowl.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool, man. My alma mater doesn't have anyone, I mean, I think the closest we have is probably I think Mason Newton went here. We had him on the show and a few others, but small town kind of stuff,
Yep.
But
what do you think about Colorado, William?
That is definitely interesting. I'm kind of wondering what Dion is gonna do, since
Jordan Keith is in the transfer portal. He's the top tackle in the 2027 NFL draft. Dion, he was Shadur's blind side. I'm kind of curious to see where he lands.
I don't remember who it was. Somebody decommitted from Colorado, and it was kind of
both Oregon and LSU are in the
But yeah, I also hear that Dion, he ended up in the hospital the other night or something, and so his health has been questioned, but it's been pretty quiet about it, which kind of makes me wonder if that's why he's not making the jump to the NFL, or maybe he's sticking around to make the jump to the NFL if Shadur, doesn't work out in Cleveland, so he can come in and sign him to whatever team he takes head coaching and try to give him another shot at least. At least that's what I would do in that position, to trying to give your kid, jumping on the trampoline and see how high they can bounce,
I don't know if he's ready. I know.
Yeah.
I know people really
ready for the NFL. I don't think Dion's ready for the NFL either.
He's ready.
I think Dion's more likely to leave Colorado and go back to Florida State when that job becomes open versus making the jump to the NFL. But if he proves himself at Florida State and Shedeur gets a second contract with the Browns and they end up hiring a new head coach after their current head coach that's set to replace Stefanski, then I could see him potentially jumping into the Browns situation once he proves himself at Florida State.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
So,
feel like he's in a position right now, like where he, with the transfer portal, you know, he got a lot of like, you know, 4 or 5-star recruits. Like it didn't really make any sense that he couldn't do with them something more than what he did. And at some point it's like, okay, like, was it just your kids and Travis?
yeah,
Because it's looking like it.
maybe he lost a little bit of motivation, you know, since his kids got, you know, moved on. So, you know, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, between it's kind of funny to talk about a coach's health, you know, as opposed to a player's health. But you know, like I said, there's always been, you know, rumors and stuff like that about him. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting because, you know, Colorado's paying a whole lot of money to him. You know, money they didn't have, you know, that they promised to him, and
Yep.
It was a lot of hype. And I get it. I mean, I understand completely the hype, you know, it's not sustainable, you know, and I was wondering how long it would take to wear off. And I knew that, like, if he couldn't figure out a way to, like, at least let, you know, get the team to 500, we'd be questioning his coaching abilities. I don't understand the rotation of the quarterbacks this season. I guess it had a lot to do with them thinking that, you know, some people were better than they ended up being. But I do think that it does kind of wear on your confidence when you come in thinking that you're going to be that guy and then someone else takes your spot.
yeah, that there's a big difference between, you know, getting competition or building a competition at a spot as opposed to um, how am I trying to say this? Uh, yeah, I don't know, but
I think you can do that with a non-freshman.
yeah,
Yeah.
and sorry, I had a brain fart, but that wears on the confidence when you're switching them back and forth. You know, Bill Walsh did that with Montana and Young, and it drove me absolutely mad as a kid. You know, I mean, I was so pissed when they ended up trading him. You know, and
Yeah, my family moved to Kansas City right when he got traded because my dad had some autographs, memorabilia from Joe Montana and Marcus Allen when they were on the Chiefs in '94.
nice.
That
Yeah,
was when Marty was coaching them, and they still had Derek Thomas at edge rusher. But they still couldn't get past the Bills. They couldn't get past the Bills in the AFC Championship. I think they may have had home field that year. Maybe it was in Buffalo, but either way.
Yeah. Montana, he was so beat up by then and everything else. You know, I mean, being in the NFC versus the Eagles and the Redskins and the Giants and the best pass rushers ever in the league. Yeah. You know, it's something else. But I still remember that's when they came out. The Niners wore the red jerseys with the white pants for the first time, and with Steve Young as quarterback, and I absolutely hate that uniform now.
I'd rather see the Niners in gold than in black. There's some teams that look great in black. Pittsburgh looks good in black, even though I'm not a Steelers fan. The Ravens look good in black. The Ravens look so good in black that I think the black should be their default home uniform instead of the purple.
It should be. It definitely should be.
The Raiders look good in black. The Saints, I think the Saints look better in gold, but they don't look terrible in black, which is the highest compliment I can give a team. The Eagles do not look good in black. The Falcons look okay in black, but again, I'm not gonna They're
and
like
those
the Saints.
Panthers.
I think the Raiders, Ravens, and Steelers are the top 3 NFL teams in black uniforms, but the Bengals look better in their white jerseys, the white Tiger jerseys and their orange jerseys than they do in black. The white Tiger jersey should be their default away jersey. The orange should be their default home jerseys.
No. With the Niners, man, it's
The
just
black
the
is
white
just
socks
trendy.
with the gold pants and the white jerseys. It is just, I mean, it just looks so good. I mean,
I wish I
Our
remember on
Cardinals black
NFL
uniform.
2K5 there was a 49ers jersey that was all gold. It was gold jersey, you had the red jersey number, it was a gold jersey, and you had gold pants. The Niners,
the color rush.
Mhm.
yeah.
I definitely remember that. But
My favorite uniform of all time, this is so random, is when the Seahawks wore like highlighter green color rush.
the chartreuse.
I love that. I was like, I
That
hope
was
that this is the
what I used
direction
for
that
trout
everyone's going to
fishing,
go.
man. That's what I used for trout fishing, was that color. It was deadly here in Colorado. But yeah, no, man. Yeah, I like a lot of the retro uniforms too that some of these teams have, but the Niners, we've kind of always had the same uniform back to like 1960, and when we were first coming out, they had a few other like ones for a year or two, but yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, the white and gold it looks so good. Oh man, this draft is going to be interesting. They definitely have to get a tight end, for, like I've been saying, to
Yeah,
replace
the
Kittle.
underclassmen deadline for Miami, Florida, and Indiana players is Friday. I'm still waiting to see what Indiana left tackle Carter Smith does, because he said on Monday he was leaning towards going back to Indiana, and I've got him 6th on my big board. So if you're ranked that high, why would you go back to college? Maybe he wants to win another title. Most scouts have like a 3rd round grade on him, so if that's the case, he probably believes he's good enough to go in day 1 like I do. So maybe he's going back for that reason. I don't know. It's not official yet. He's just leaning on when he's going back. And I know tomorrow night is there's a bowl game on NFL Network tomorrow night. I'm gonna look that up because I think there's a bowl game on.
We'll definitely be back, for our audience with updates on everyone signing, who's going.
Yeah, the
who's
Shrine
staying, and all
Bowl's
that
next.
good stuff, so.
The Shrine Bowl's next week, but there's another bowl game tomorrow night before the Shrine Bowl. The American Bowl, January 22nd on NFL Network. The American Bowl, and we talked about the American Bowl on Draft Utopia on Saturday. So there's some American Bowl. I'm thinking next week for Under the Bleachers, we do an American Bowl recap and a Shrine Bowl preview show.
That'll do. That'll work. You hear that, guys? Shrine Bowl.
Shrine Bowl preview
right.
and American Bowl recap. We'll see.
I suppose we'll get out of here for the night, and thank you so much for coming back and visiting us for a show, Brandice. You've been great. So
Thanks.
Yep.
Maybe we'll get you back again, sometime. And
yep.
I'm going to do everything I can to hype up this show, because I just found out some things on there, and I've been getting some engagement lately. So we're going to see. But I'd like to thank our audience, anybody watching. Thank you, Chris, for all the technical stuff, and you're absolutely great. And yeah, it's been fun. So
sounds good.
All right.